Let's go check some fences. Okay, so on anybody that's just bought a new piece of land, probably one of the first things you always want to do, and usually you do this during due diligence, but is you want to drive the perimeter and see what kind of fences you've got. So I already know that I've got several places here in my fence that is just plain hideous. So I'm going to do an assessment to see if the whole perimeter needs to be refenced or just portions of it. So, for example, right here is a prime example. You've got a whole panel in here replacing a section of fence that's out. And if you can see right in through here, that is just not okay. That whole thing needs to be replaced. And then you've got a water gap up here that I also have to replace. And a water gap is going to be a whole different ball game. I'll probably have to get a welder out here, and he's going to put some frames in, and then we'll have a swinging panel or some kind of a moving fence that will allow the water to come through and any debris that comes with the water, and then go down quickly without tearing up your fence. That's the intent. So I know I'm going to have to replace this side of the fence, and I discovered when I got my survey that this boundary line on the north side is off about anywhere from 3 to 5 feet. And you might think that's not a lot, but that really adds up. And so I'm sure that on the south side of the property, it is also off. In fact, I know it's off more than that. So the first thing you have to do is contact all your neighbors and just let them know what where the boundaries are and what your plan is to fix it. I already talked to this neighbor over here. We're going to split the cost of the fence because he sides me on the north and the east side, so we're going to split that cost right there. So that's an easy fix. And now the other neighbors, we're going to have that address that conversation. So right here, this is a prime example of what happens when you have a water gap. So you can see down here is my water gap, and it is in terrible condition. Part of it has been updated, and you can see where the water level comes. But this whole thing needs to be cleaned out, get all the brush out, and then you have to put in a nice water gap so that will sustain all the debris. And that's a really good one. We just need to finish putting it over there. Well, look at the mamas. I am super excited to go into winter with this much grass. It's not uncommon for after a summer, some people stock too many cattle on their pastures, and so then it is totally grazed down. And I'm so excited because I've got so much grass going into the winter that it's going to be it's just going to be great forage for them. I think it's really going to help on my feed. And I'm also checking out the pond because look at this pond over here. You can tell it is probably going to need to be cleaned out. I don't like for my cows to drink pond water. So this is an example of a tire tank that I will want to, something of this sort that I will want to put in at the other property. So if you, there's a shallower end over there, so it's going to be perfect for the calves. They'll be able to reach it, and there's a float there, so that is going to be a great, that's what I like to use for the cows. So talking about pond water, some people have no problem, and there's nothing wrong with pond water. But when I see that pond water, and if it's in I don't have a huge herd, so I don't have a big problem giving them fresh water. So if I look at the pond water or if I see water out of a spigot that I can have, which one am I going to drink? I'm going to want the good, clean water for myself and for my cattle versus the pond water because, pond water, they stand in it, they poop and pee in it, and there's all kind of varmints in there. It is. Some people are fine with the pond water. Some people prefer fresh water. So I don't have a big enough herd to fuss, so I'm going to give them fresh water.